Hello and welcome to my school channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we're going to continue the English language JAMB pass question for the year 2025. Please stay with us, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the My School channel. Like I said earlier, we're going to be focusing on English language JAMB pass question for the year 2025. In this video, we're going to be focusing on questions 208 to 232. So let's begin with question 208. In each of the following questions, choose the option that best completes the gap. She is dash a sailor who is away at sea. A, fuming about. B, longing for. C, waiting for. And D, writing to. So the answer to this question is option B, longing for. So we understand that they're talking about someone who is missing someone who is away at sea. So here you need something that expresses that emotional desire and yearning for someone. So the best answer to this question is longing for, although it can be waiting for. But here we are saying that the sentence is trying to communicate that the person is not just awaited for, he is missed. So the best option to fill in that gap is longing for. Option B is the answer to this question. Question 209. Again, we are to choose the option that best completes the gap. Scarcely does she enter the room when the phone rang. A, did. A, has. B, does. And D, had. So the answer to this question is option D, had. Again, remember that a correlative conjunction is a conjunction that links two clauses together. In this case, the two clauses that are being linked together is she had entered the room and the phone rang. So had entered is the past participle verb that is in the first clause. So the option that should fill in that gap is had. So it should be had entered the room. So when you add the correlative conjunction, it should be scarcely had she entered the room when the phone rang. So option D, had, is the answer to this question. Question 210. He presented a masterpiece at the conference dash. A, was he. B, wasn't he. C, did he. And D, didn't he. So the answer to this question is option D, didn't he. So remember that a question tag, when it's attached to a sentence, it has to mimic the subject and the auxiliary verb in the sentence. So here we see that the subject, of course, is he, but we don't see an auxiliary verb here. So whenever there is no auxiliary verb in the sentence, we assume that the auxiliary verb that should be in the tag is the auxiliary verb did. So you just have to invert it, because in this case, we have a positive statement. So the tag should have a negative auxiliary verb. So didn't he should be the best option to fill in that gap. Option D is the answer to this question. Question 211. For this question, choose the option nearest in meaning to the word or phrase in italics. The students were reluctant to participate in the debate. A, excited. B, happy. C, unwilling. And D, eager. So the answer to this question is option C, unwilling. So reluctant means not willing to do something, not eager to do something. So the nearest meaning to that is unwilling. So option C, unwilling, is the answer to this question. Question 212. Again, we have to choose the option nearest in meaning to the word in italics. Parenting is really arduous, even though enjoyable. A, strenuous. B, troublesome. C, hectic. And D, severe. So the answer to this question is option A, strenuous. So when something is arduous, it means it's very difficult and requires a great deal of effort to do that thing. So the nearest meaning should be strenuous. Strenuous also means difficult or requiring a great deal of effort. It might feel like hectic, option C is the answer to this question, but please note that hectic is a word that is used when you're talking about an experience that you've had. Something that was quite exhausting for you is hectic. So that's what you use when you're describing an experience you had. But when you're talking about something that is difficult and requires a great deal of effort, you make use of arduous or strenuous. Option A, strenuous, is the answer to this question. Question 213. The debater made a very scurrilous remark about his opponents. A, false. B, abusive. C, fake. And D, sharp. So the answer to this question is option B, abusive. So a scurrilous remark is a remark that is hurtful and damaging to one's reputation. So the nearest meaning to that is abusive. So when you make a hurtful remark that damages one's reputation, it is closest in meaning to abusive. Abusive means insulting, something that is insulting or that hurts the target of such remark. So it can be false or fake. because in this case, we are not talking about something that is a lie. We are talking about something that is hurtful, something that damages someone's reputation. So the best answer to this question is option B, abusive. Question 214. Giwa does odious things at times. A, horrible. B, great. C, strange. And D, pleasant. So the answer to this question is option A, horrible. So odious means something that is repulsive or deserving of hatred. So something unpleasant, something repulsive is also horrible. So option A, horrible, is the answer to this question. Question 215. Gambling is a pernicious act. A, beneficial. B, harmless. C, noxious. And D, benign. So the answer to this question is option C, noxious. So pernicious is something that is harmful, that has a disastrous effect, but does so in a gradual or subtle way. So the closest in meaning to that is noxious. Noxious is something harmful, something unpleasant. So in that way, you can know that option C, noxious, is the answer. You can see other options, option A, B, and D, have positive connotation. Something that is beneficial, something that is harmless or benign is something that is good, right? But something pernicious and something noxious is something bad. So option C is the only option that has a negative connotation. So option C, noxious, is the answer to this question. Question 216. The building was haunted by a couple of spooks. A, ghosts. B, robbers. C, hyenas. And D, hunters. So the answer to this question is option A, ghosts. So spooks is the informal term for ghosts or spirits. And ghosts are the spirits or souls of dead people that appear to the living and haunt them. So the option that is nearest in meaning to spooks is option A, ghosts. Do you know you can take practice questions with our simulated JAMB CBT past question? All you need to do is to go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website, where you can download the Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and iPhone devices, and the Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now on to question 217. Again, we have to choose the option nearest in meaning to the word in italics. So the scientists made an astonishing discovery in the laboratory. A, common. B, amazing. C, expected. And D, ordinary. So the answer to this question is option B, amazing. So scientific discoveries are described by the level of impact or the level of surprise that it creates to the people who read about them. So astonishing and amazing are similar in meaning. They talk about how there is an extreme level of surprise at the discovery. So common, amazing, and ordinary don't represent a very high level of surprise. So amazing and astonishing are nearest in meaning. Option B is the answer to this question. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. 218. Again, we have to choose the option nearest in meaning to the word in italics. Between Achebe and Shoyinka, it is debatable who is more enigmatic a writer. A, flamboyant. B, ludicrous. C, inscrutable. And D, talented. So the answer to this question is option C, inscrutable. So enigmatic means something that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to comprehend. So it is similar in meaning to the word inscrutable, which also means something that is very difficult to comprehend. So flamboyant means something that is extravagant in their actions or behavior. Ludicrous means something outrageous, while talented means someone who is skillful in a particular thing. So it may feel like option D, talented, is the answer because Achebe and Shoyinka are both skillful writers, are both talented writers. But it's important to note that enigmatic and talented don't mean the same thing. Enigmatic is something or someone that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to comprehend. So the answer to this question is option C, inscrutable. Question 219. When the landlady noticed the silhouettes on the wall, she called up her son. A, outline. B, ghost. C, speck. And D, soot. So the answer to this question is option A, outline. So when we're talking about silhouettes, we're talking about that dark shape or outline of someone or something against a lighter background. So outline is nearest in meaning to silhouette. It might feel like ghost is the answer, but ghost and silhouette don't mean the same thing. When we're talking about ghost, we're using that term that is used to describe the ghost or spirit of a dead person that appears to a living person. But this time around, they are discussing the outline that comes against the shadow of a lighter background. Maybe the sun or a light is shining against something, and it creates an outline, a dark outline of the shape of that thing. So option A, outline, is the answer to this question. Question 220. For this question, choose the option opposite in meaning to the word or phrase in italics. Musa vehemently opposed his son's political ambition. A. Emphatically, B. Strongly, C. Coldly, and D. Carelessly. So the answer to this question is option C. Coldly. So the word vehemently means to do something with full force, with full passion and intensity. So the opposite in meaning of that word is coldly. To do something coldly means to do something without emotion, without full force or passion. So emphatically and strongly are synonymous to the word vehemently. Again, it means to do something with full force, to do something with passion. So option C, coldly, is the answer to this question. Question 221. Again, for this question, we have to change the word opposite in meaning to the word or phrase in italics. The natives were allowed to stay. A, immigrants, B, foreigners, C, indigents, and D, visitors. So the answer to this question is option B, foreigners. Foreigners is directly opposite in meaning to the word natives. So when we're talking about natives, we are talking about people who were born in a particular location. So they are natives of that place by virtue of birth. Foreigners, on the other hand, are people who were born in another location but probably live in a different place. So that is the opposite in meaning to the word natives. It may feel like immigrants is the answer, but in this case, foreigners is directly opposite in meaning to the word natives. When we're talking about foreigners, we're talking about people who were not born in that location. Immigrants is a word used to describe people who move from one location to another to live there. So option B, foreigners, is the answer to this question. Question 222. The scientists conducted a meticulous experiment, A, careless, B, detailed, C, thorough, and D, careful. So the answer to this question is option A, careless. So to be meticulous means to pay great attention to detail and ensure that you do things very carefully. So the opposite of that is careless. To be careless means to do something without great attention or thought. Detailed, thorough, careful are synonymous to the word meticulous. So option A, careless, is the answer to this question. Question 223. In the past, anyone who angered the gods would be killed. A, pleased, B, appeased, C, begged, and D, settled. So the answer to this question is option B, appeased. So to anger someone means to make someone feel great displeasure or hostility towards you. So the opposite of that would naturally be to please someone. But in this particular context, where we're talking about the gods, the best opposite in meaning to the word angered would be appeased. So we make use of appease when we're talking about to pacify or please a god, to please a higher divine authority. So pleased and appeased are both opposites in meaning to the word angered. But in this particular context, where we're talking about the gods, the opposite in meaning should be the word appeased. Option B is the answer to this question. Question 224. Despite their efforts at the last Nations Cup fiesta, the team was chastised by their employers. A, rebuked, B, honored, C, dethroned, and D, denounced. The answer to this question is option B, honored. To chastise someone means to punish someone severely for their actions. So the opposite of that would be honored. That means to give great recognition or award to someone who has done something good. Rebuked, dethroned, and denounced have negative connotation. Again, when you are rebuking somebody, you are punishing them or telling them off for a negative thing that they have done. To dethrone someone means to bring somebody down from a throne that you have placed that person in. And to denounce someone means to no longer recognize that person. They all have negative connotation. But the word honored has a positive connotation as opposed to the word chastised. So option B, honored, is the answer to this question. Question 225. He made a facile generalization. A, broad, B, complex, C, quiet, and D, careful. So the answer to this question is option B, complex. The word facile means something that is too simple and lacks complexity. So the opposite of that would be something that is complex. It may feel like option A, broad, is the answer to this question, but please note that the word facile refers to its simplicity, not in the sense that it's not wide in places it covers, but in the sense that it's too simple, it's not complex enough. So complex should be the opposite in meaning to the word facile. Option B, complex, is the answer to this question. Question 226. The manager became flexible on critical matters. A, rigid, B, evasive, C, serious, and D, unbendable. So the answer to this question is option A, rigid. So to be flexible means to be willing to change or adapt to situations, while rigid is the opposite meaning of that. It means being unwilling to change or adapt a particular situation. So it might feel like the answer option So it may feel like the answer is option D, unbendable. But please note that the direct opposite of flexible is rigid. Rigid is the common word that is used when we are talking about the opposite of flexible and not unbendable. So option A, rigid, is the answer to this question. Do you have a question? Please feel free to ask your question by going down to the link in the description below. This takes you to my school website where you can ask your question and the solution will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now on to question 2 to 7. The gear is immanent in a car. A, available, B, necessary, C, functional, and D, transcendent. So the answer to this question is option D, transcendent. So the word immanent means a permanent part of something, something that operates within a particular object. So in this case, the gear is a permanent, functional thing within the car. So the opposite in meaning to that is transcendent. Transcendent means something that is temporal, something that exists beyond the physical limits. So that is the direct opposite of the word immanent. Option D is the answer to this question. Do you have a better explanation or solution to any of these questions? If you do, go down to the comment section below, indicate the question number and the solution you'd like to share. Question 2 to 8. Andrew is the protagonist in the play. A, enemy, B, antagonist, C, progressive, and D, opponent. So the answer to this question is option B, antagonist. So the protagonist in the play is the main character in the play, while the antagonist is someone who actively opposes the protagonist. So the opposite in meaning of the word protagonist is the antagonist. Option B is the answer to this question. Question 2 to 9. The robbers gained access to the bank because of their porous security network. A, amorphous, B, impermeable, C, gorgeous, and D, pervious. So the answer to this question is option B, impermeable. So when we are talking about porous, something that is porous, it means it has a lot of holes that things can get through. While impermeable means it doesn't have any holes, it doesn't have any means by which something can get through. So now porous have often been used to describe security networks. So when a security network is porous, it means that it has a lot of flaws that allows people to get past it. So the opposite of that would be impermeable. That means there are no flaws. It's very difficult or impossible to get through such security network. So option B, impermeable, is the answer to this question. Question 230. For this question, select the option that best explains the information conveyed in the sentence. Tom's excuses don't hold water. Option A, the excuses are not logically sound. B, the excuses are acceptable by a few. C, the excuses are waterproof. And D, the excuses explain the situation well. So the answer to this question is option A, the excuses are not logically sound. To hold water is an idiomatic expression that means that an argument is logically sound and can stand up to scrutiny. But when an argument or when an excuse, as in this case, doesn't hold water, it means that it is not logically sound, it is not believable. So option A, the excuses are not logically sound, is the answer to this question. Question 231. Again, we have to look for the option that best explains the information conveyed in the sentence. He got a job by paying hush money. A, he bribed to get the job. B, he was induced to get the job. C, he paid exorbitant fee to get the job. And D, he was paid for the job. So the answer to this question is option A, he bribed to get the job. So hush money is a common expression that is used to refer to bribes. So he got the job by paying bribes to the relevant authorities. So in this case, option A, he bribed to get the job, is the answer to this question. Question 232. The chairman of the association tells his members not to throw in the towel. Option A, they should not be tired. B, they are not to give up. C, they should be ready for a trip. And D, they should expect good outcomes. So the answer to this question is option B, they are not to give up. To throw in the towel means to surrender in defeat because you know you cannot win such situation. So it cannot be option A, they should not be tired. Because throwing in the towel doesn't necessarily mean that you are tired. It just means that you know you cannot win the situation and it is best to accept defeat and to give up. So the best option that explains this particular sentence is they are not to give up. So option B, they are not to give up, is the answer to this question. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please don't forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.